What's up guys, my name is Andy and I am an idiot. I made a video a couple weeks back where I put some insulation on the exhaust pipe on my driver's side to protect the hydraulic line that goes to my hydraulic clutch, to the slave cylinder on my clutch. It's not touching, but it's close, and those pipes get real hot, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna put something on here to protect it just so that I can reduce any kind of problems I may have. So I went to the auto parts store and I bought, well, I was looking for some exhaust header wrap, some, you know, the kind of the stuff you see the people wrapping their headers with and real common stuff. And they had some of that. And then I saw this sheet of wrap that I thought, this is perfect. I can just wrap this one thing around the exhaust piece down here, this downpipe or whatever you want to call it, that comes up to my shorty headers here. And it's adhesive and it'll stick on there, and it's the size I needed because I don't need to wrap, 20 feet worth of pipe. So I'll just buy that and we'll just call it a day. And so, not understanding that the adhesive part is meant to be stuck, for example, for you to put it on the firewall. If you were to drive these cars, you drive for a while, you put your hand on the firewall, like maybe underneath the dash, it's hot. These headers, they put a lot of heat out, right? So that would be a better application. And with that reflective surface on there, it's designed to reflect the heat. It does have a layer of fiberglass in there to protect, but they're not really designed to be put on exhaust. I made a comment in that video about the smell. Every once in a while, it's been a while now, but you can still smell a little bit. So most of that glue has burned off, which is fantastic, but that's not what I should have used. Now I could have maybe used that stuff to wrap the line, the hydraulic line itself, and that would have helped. In fact, with as much as I could have had several layers around that line, and it really would have added a lot of insulation. But guys, so if you were thinking of using that for doing something like I did, I don't recommend it. Learn from my mistakes. That's not something that we should have done. And I feel like an idiot for doing that and not using my head and thinking about the application and what it was doing and all that stuff. So anyways, so what do I need to do? This is another one of those videos where it's less of a how-to and just more of me working on the car and just taking you along with me and just talking while I'm doing some stuff. So let's get on to the next part that I wanted to work on. I've got a problem with my alternator where the belt that I had on here was a shorter belt, when I had the other alternator. And in fact, with this setup here, I don't know if it was the size of the pulley or what was going on, but the belt was so small that you had to use a screwdriver to kind of pry it up over the edge of the pulley here to get that thing on here. And I had the alternator pivoted all the way to the bottom of, this bar down here. It's got an adjustment track in it that you can pivot the alternator. I had it all the way in trying to get the belt on, and it was just too small. So I went this is from Napa, and this belt is actually too long. And now, if you can see here, I'm at the end of the adjustment track. I can't pivot this out any farther to tighten up the belt. And you might be able to say that that's tight enough, but I'm having a problem with the belt squeak. And that may be a separate problem than the belt not being tight enough. It may have to do with the type of pulley that I have on here. I was reading that there are pulleys with a deeper groove that the belt fits in better, and maybe part of the problem I'm having is the belt just isn't fitting far enough down in the groove to bite it and it's slipping. This particular pulley here, this is a used pulley. You can kind of read the part number there. This is in a Ford part. I bought this used, and they grounded the edge here. You can see how that's this is actually really sharp. Now I don't know if that's going to matter because the belt's going to sit down inside. It's not going to ride up on the top here and get cut. But if I were to use this, I'd probably have to take that edge off. I don't know. I don't know why it was ground down. Maybe you guys know. Trying to make this fit on my alternator might solve that problem that I'm having. But here's the rub. This is a larger diameter pulley than what's on the alternator right now. And the way that's going to work is it will slow down my alternator. If I put a larger pulley on there, it's going to spin slower, wherever you are in the RPM range. And the problem is I don't want to have a charging issue with my alternator. I was reading online that people that put larger pulleys on their alternator, for whatever their reasons were, found that during idle that it wouldn't charge enough. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be spinning fast enough to create the charge that they need for their car. Now, that wasn't a classic Ford place where I was reading that information. It was for newer cars or newer Fords. But now my electrical demand is fairly low right now. The biggest thing I have are these electric fans. They're pretty power hungry, and when I'm idling, I just got done solving a problem where the engine, because of when these fans kick on, the alternator goes to work, and it's such a load on the motor that it kills the motor. So I fixed that with a solenoid that Holley sells for air conditioning setups. But anyway, there's a whole video on that. Anyway, so what I don't want to do is reduce the charge of my alternator while at idle. Now, it may not be a problem with this 100 amp alternator. I may have enough amperage, even with a little bit larger pulley, to do what I need to do. But I don't know if I want to do that yet. I don't know if I want to go that far. And while I was thinking about this, before I dug in some information on that, I found another pulley. Again, before I had found out about the whole diameter thing. So that one down there is smaller than this one, and this one is smaller than this one. You can set them up like this. I know you can't really see on the camera. The bottom diameter there in the valley is smaller on this one than it is on this guy. This is also, now this is a Scott Drake reproduction piece, but it has that Ford part number on there. But the last letter is an S on this one, and this is an L on this one, and that may mean something to you guys. Supposedly this is the hypo alternator pulley. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. Again, I'm looking for that deeper groove, the deeper valley for that belt to sit in there, but the compromise is that it's going to spin the alternator slower. So another solution, if I don't want to mess with the pulley, is actually maybe get a little bit smaller belt. So what I had on there, I believe it was a 7395. Like if you were to look at the numbers on here, 7395, and some of you guys know how that plays out in terms of dimensions. It's like 40 inches and some change. I forget the exact, or 39 inches, whatever. So when I went to Napa and got this one, all they had was a 7405, which was 2 sizes up, and it's really too big. So this guy here, this is a 7400. This is right in between them. This might be the size I need to where that I've got some adjustments still on that lower adjustment slot when I'm trying to tighten this up. So I think the first thing to do is take this belt off, and we'll put on this guy and see if it's still squeaking. With this little bit smaller belt, I should be able to tighten this a little bit more and get this belt nice and tight. And if it's still squeaking, I guess maybe from there I can review getting a little bit larger pulley. But I think that this was a much cheaper option, first of all. But I don't want to change that pulley size. So anyways, let's pull this guy off and see if this does the job. So this bolt down here for tightening this alternator just takes a 9/16 wrench. And we'll just put it on there. And another thing I noticed when I was trying to figure this stuff out is that my alternator was not staying in, where it's supposed to be, like this slot down here at the bottom, which I can't show because where the camera's at, but I found that it was sliding. The position of the alternator was sliding down, that way, and loosening up this belt. And, when you tighten this stuff up, maybe I'm not putting it tight enough, but I do have this lock washer on here, and I don't remember having one of these on here before. Maybe I'm doing it wrong and I don't need that on there, and that's part of my problem. But okay, so let's see, is this, nope, that's a 5/8. This guy on here real quick, just loosen that up, make it a little easier. The pivot, okay, so there we go. Now we can take this belt off. So now we're gonna go with this 7400 belt. Remember, the one I just pulled off was a 7405. This number here may also mean something to you guys too. And there's the dimensions of the belt. And now that I'm looking at it, that says 3/8. I think I'm supposed to have a 7/16 belt. You guys are probably going right now, Andy, that's gonna cause a problem. You do want a wider belt, but a skinnier belt would fit down inside the valley of that pulley a little bit better. But I may be getting ahead of myself. So let me try this belt and see if that works. This on here, like so. Yeah, see, I'm already in that spot where the belt doesn't want to go on. And the problem I'm having is that the alternator is hitting. I've got a ground wire back there and I can't pivot the alternator anymore, but it's going to hit the bolt anyway. So maybe what we do, do the old, no, that's not going to work. There we go. Okay. Now we're on there. Now we can tighten this up. Man, what amazing. This is only one size smaller, and this alternator, man, can come, there's so much adjustment left. You know, something I noticed already is, and this is a product because the belt is skinnier, but it's fitting down inside this pulley a little bit lower. And I should have showed that before. The other belt kind of, there was a little bit, you know, this part right here was just a little bit taller than this edge of the pulley, but now it's below it and it's sitting down further in that groove, and more of that groove is grabbing this belt. So that might have been part of my problem, is that I had, the belt that I had was just too wide. Maybe this is where I need to be. Okay, so let's get this thing tightened up. So I'm gonna put the bolt in here without that lock washer. I don't remember needing to have that before, but I could be just completely wrong with that. So put this guy all the way to the bottom. And then what I like to do is I've got a pry bar that I'll put in here and put a little leverage leaning off of the water pump and pushing on this to pivot the alternator out. And then we can get this thing tightened up with some adjustment down there. This is that big bar that I like to use. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it right here. You can actually see the marks a little bit on the water pump. It's actually not on the timing cover, but on the water pump itself. I'm going behind this heater tube and put it straight down here, and I'm pushing on the housing and just kind of, yeah, you can see it kind of move. Just push it out. And get this guy tight. The right way. Okay, so now that's on there. Yeah, you can see kind of the marks here from me doing this while I was trying to figure this problem out before. I kept using that spot. Don't forget, we got to tighten up this guy up top here that we loosened up. All right, so that's good. So again, I don't know, this doesn't seem very tight, but man, it's really, this thing is sitting down lower in that pulley, so that may be what I was looking for. On the adjustment down here on the bottom, you can see there's a little bit of travel left in this adjustment bar, and that other belt I had, this thing was all the way to the end. I couldn't move this alternator out any farther because it was hitting the end of this slot that this can slide in. So this is something I'm looking for. Man, you guys can you see how the belt's kind of, it's almost like it's sucking down inside there. That may be what we needed. You know, something else that I was thinking about, I've seen on, you know, you can buy those whole dress kits where you can, you know, you've got like those fancy polished pieces or chrome pieces, and it's got a serpentine belt, and it's got a bracket that kind of goes around the whole front, around the water pump, and it mounts to the heads and everything, and it kind of lines everything up, makes it look nice. They've got adjustments like this with these turnbuckle setups to tighten that belt. And the nice thing about that is you can spin this, and as you spin that, both of these drive outwards, and it can tighten that belt a lot better than me just trying to put some leverage on there and pull that belt tight. This is the same kind of setup that I have for my throttle linkage that, that you guys probably have seen that I have on my site, KruseBuilt.com. And it's just the same setup, but it's just a little bit larger so that it works with the bolts and stuff on there. I got this set up and I thought maybe I'll just use one of these. The problem is with the stock setup and the fan blade style on the front of those alternators, it actually hits this setup here. I can't utilize this to go from the stock, you know, like that bar that sweeps underneath the alternator and it gives you that slot for adjustment. Replace that bar with this setup, this design won't work because the alternator fan, that front fan blades hit this setup here and I can't put this in place. You know, I thought maybe mounting it on the front of the water pump and mounting it behind the alternator. Let's see, can you guys, it would, instead of being straight like this, it would be kind of twisted over to the side, and it would, the screw would go in the back of the alternator in that little tab underneath where the slot adjustment is. And then it'd be out of the way of the fans. But then I'm worried that when you start to get things off axis, the load that's on there is not this, it starts to have a problem. It compounds the load because it's not going to be axial. It's not going to be in compression this way. You're going to have a little bit of a side load to it. And I don't know if that's something that I want to mess with this. So this is now just not a paperweight, but something to put on my desk and play with when I need something to play with. So this isn't going to work. I thought this would be cool, but the only other thing I thought was maybe I could make a bracket that would bolt to the bottom of that alternator and just extend over, I don't know, an inch or two, and then I could thread this into that, and then it would get it'd put this thing more of an angle like that, so the fan blades, it would be sitting right here, wouldn't hit it. But I don't know if that's going to work. If you guys got some ideas on that, I'd love to hear it. But with the stock setup, it looks like that, and that's why that bar it's got a bend to it, and it's curved so that it fits around. I mean, it's designed on purpose to do what it does. I just thought that maybe something like this would be beneficial. So the logical next step is let's fire up the motor and see if the belt squeaks. So the last part that I was showing there, I wanted to show that solenoid activating when the fans kick on and it holds that throttle. And so the video that I just did about that, I explained in that video that I had taken the camera inside to put all the files on the computer and let the camera charge. Well, I did just the wiring part of that, and when it came out, didn't know, I changed this. I touched something on the screen of I have a GoPro, that's what I use, and I must have done something stupid, and I lost all the video. All the audio was there, but the video wasn't, and I debated about just not even finishing the video. I was so frustrated with that because all the stuff that I had talked about, I had a little bit of a learning curve trying to figure out that solenoid. Again, reading the instructions plays a big part, but I didn't realize that when that activates, you have to just blip the throttle once, and it allows that little plunger in the solenoid to just extend just a little bit farther, then it holds the throttle open. And so what I was showing there was that when that happens, you blip the throttle once, that thing extends, and then I went over and I showed the RPMs. It was like 1,000 RPMs or whatever, and that's fine. You could maybe set it a little bit lower. I could adjust it a little bit lower, but it's fine for what I've got for now, and I can always go back and readjust it. But that video, it didn't end up like I wanted. I wanted it to be more informative, and all the stuff that I had done after I brought the camera back out here and got it all set up and fired up the motor, went through a couple cycles of the fans kicking on and showing how you adjust stuff, and all that was gone. And I just didn't want to, I thought about, maybe I'll just redo everything. But it wouldn't feel as genuine because I already knew the answer. And I thought maybe it'd be some value to you guys just seeing how this works and going through the motions and making it work. And then when I was done, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out there and I'll just film the end of the video, just redo that part and just explain what happened. And so that video is probably not gonna be a very popular one because I spent a lot of time setting up everything and explaining a bunch of stuff, and then the end just kind of almost drops off because we missed all that footage. So anyways, so cool. So fan doesn't squeak, and that was another thing that I wanted to do. So I backed the car out of the garage and I fired it up, and I noticed, if it didn't squeak when it first started up, sometimes when the fan kicks on, that thing would squeak because that load on the alternator. And I revved it up a couple times, no issues. And you guys, you probably know this better than I do. It might be that belt, that little bit, tiny bit skinnier belt. It's a 1/16 of an inch skinnier than what I had on there. And so it's sitting farther down in the valley of that pulley, so there's more of it gripping. That may be part of it. Maybe because I got that little bit smaller diameter belt allows me to tighten that, pivot that alternator and get it to just a little bit tighter than before. I was maxed out. I couldn't get it any tighter than what I had. So that may be part of it. For now, I'm gonna leave those pulleys. Yeah, these two guys, I'm just gonna hold on to these. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I guess I could always fall back and use this if I need to, but I think for now, I think I might have solved that problem that I was having with the squeaky belt. So again, if you guys know more about this stuff, you can comment down below, let me know. These particular part numbers, remember this was the S and this is the L. That may mean something to some of you guys. Maybe the information can help other people if you put it down below. So anyways, all right, so I think we're gonna just wrap up this one. I've got a couple, doing this kind of formatted video, trying to do some of the less exciting stuff, but capture it so that you guys can see it. Maybe I can explain a few things as I'm going along. I find myself every once in a while wanting to watch that on some of the channels that I watch. A lot of times they'll just skip through everything and they'll just cover the high points of stuff. And every once in a while I'm like, well, give me a little more back information, a little more background of what you got. And maybe this is helpful. Some of you guys are probably not interested in just a bunch of rambling. So either you can skip forward or maybe this video just doesn't show up on your list, and we'll catch you in the next one. So, all right, so I don't want to spoil what I'm doing next. So we'll just leave it there. All right, guys, thank you for watching. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out. And we'll see you in the next one.